Hermes Trismegistus survived the Middle Ages and entered the Renaissance, where he was embraced with open arms. Unlike whereas in the Middle Ages there was claims of heresy when people proposed his thought, here fresh minds and the early humanist milieu, where not only Hermes Trismegistus but Hermes Mercurius as well gave authority to those seeking and evoking his name, not just in religious spirituality but even in politics and trade. The lost way of Hermes is always returning. It returned in the 2nd and 3rd century Alexandria to the Hermetists, who found not only wisdom but method in the teachings and gods of the past. Emerging from the troubled Middle Ages into the Renaissance and Enlightenment, ideas from the Hermetica and the broader Hermetic tradition flowed as many rivers from some supposed single source, guided thinkers and early scientists even to question nature and spirituality and unearth many occult truths that became the facts of the modern era of science. Now, while the names of Hermes in all his forms, Thoth, Theut, Trismegistus, Mercurius, Tot, inspired humanity into the modern age, the divinity was almost lost to the dustbin. Casaubon proved in the 17th century, yes, that Casaubon, that the post-Christian dating of the Corpus Hermeticum was valid to the 2nd or 3rd century, as well as published later on, or before, I'm not sure, John Dee's diaries on angel magic. So despite debunking the Hermetica teachings as coming from the mouth of the first sage, thought even to be contemporary with or predating Moses, of course, Casaubon unwittingly brought Enochian magic to the world. Instead of showing Dr. John Dee to be just another heretic, Casaubon opened another estuary of Hermetic Christian angel magic to flow through the centuries to us here today. So there are many Hermeses. Perhaps there are also many ways of Hermes as well. Last time we considered how the Hermetica differs from Gnosticisms and Platonisms. Today we consider its impact on us from the Renaissance onward. But the question I think we should ask is not, what is the way of Hermes? Rather, we should ask, what is the way of Hermes for us today? What can the first sage, thrice great Mercurius, show us in all his wisdoms that might help us find our way, your way, in the maelstrom of the modern world? Think about this, and let me know if you have in the chat, if you are here live or if you're watching this on replay. Let me know what you think. And if you're interested in learning more about Hermetic spirituality and the Way of Hermes, you're very welcome to become a channel member, of course. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Join our monthly Hermetic Book Club, which meets on Zoom 3rd Sunday of every month. I hope to see you there. Let's go. Walk the way of Hermes and unveil the life and light of the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermetic spirituality. Join our monthly book club to learn and meet others who seek the ancient wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus. Join via YouTube membership's book club tier and subscribe at hermeticspirituality.com. Welcome everybody. Good to see you here today. We continue our journey through its final stage of looking at the most basic information on Hermes Trismegistus that we should probably all start with, and that we would all start with, I'm certain, if things like the basic dictionaries we use in esoteric studies were available for everyday people. But they're not. You can maybe get them out of interlibrary loans, but they're just not affordable when they're published by companies like Brill. So I'm not going to give you the same recommendations that others give you about how to access these texts, though I'm sure you know what they are. But what we will do is look at what the dictionary says of Hermes Trismegistus. If you want to go further into understanding the real fullest possible nuances and depths of the history of Hermes Trismegistus, there is one book written on that, and that is this book. Also, of course, published, I believe, yes, by Brill, printed POD very cheaply and costing many hundreds of dollars. So what can I do is bring you some of this knowledge for free here on YouTube, supported, of course, by my channel members. Thank you very much for supporting my work and inspiring and encouraging me to go ever deeper into the mysteries and share what I think of them with you. Before we dive into the journey of Hermes from the Middle Ages into the Renaissance, I'd like to say that we also have a big event coming up in November, and we'll tell you more about that. If you're interested in ENOCHIACON, go to arcaneresearchsociety.com and take a look. You can attend online or in person. We have amazing presenters coming. Someone in the comments earlier today asked me if I'd ever heard of something called the OTO, and that it was quite big in the zeitgeist these days, and that I should maybe consider looking into it and finding out what it is and maybe talking about it. And I thought that was a wonderful comment to receive, because it shows that someone is very keen about the stuff that we talk about here, and probably will enjoy a lot of the content on this channel once they dig into the deep dives that we do. And not these 20-minute deep dives that people seem to think in our modern attention span era have become the norm. But true deep dives, like we do here. I don't think we'll be able to go more than a couple hours here today, because it's the weekend and I want to go see my buddy and hang out with him a bit. We don't get to hang much. But yes, if you have questions, super chat them, become a channel member, and attend ENOCHIACON. Get your tickets today. 3 payment plan is ending any day now because the event's coming up. So check it out, and I'll see you online or in person at ENOCHIACON. The Arcane Research Society returns to bring esoteric scholarship and practice in 2026 with 2 major events held in Austin, Texas. Register for an annual membership and attend online or in person all of our annual events, including June 13th, our spring workshop, and November 6th through 8th, ENOCHIACON, our full esotericism conference. The ARS Spring Workshop features 3 workshops led by Jason Louv, Craig Williams, and Frater RC. Spend a whole day in downtown Austin, Texas, enjoying these hands-on deep dives with experts in their fields. Register today for all live events included with ARS annual membership, Spring Workshop, and ENOCHIACON, which features too many amazing presenters to name. Sign up today at arcaneresearchsociety.com. Now, when we're done our analysis and our study, I did find a really pretty video that does this sort of deep dive from 3 years ago into this topic as well, which we could look at the end and go a bit longer. So for some reason, YouTube will no longer let me set super chat goals. So I can't set a goal to encourage you. So throw in some super chats. If we get a few of them, then we'll do the second part of this. If we can get like 5 to 10 super chats, we'll say that's the deal. But let's dive in without much further ado. Yes, Rose Fox Muse, good to see you. Rachel Rose. All things Hermes are indeed very good. Very good. We love this stuff. And this is a very interesting period that we're about to dive into, the modern period. Magical people in the house. Any advice for beginning practitioners? Yeah, stick around till the end, and we can talk about that. If you have to ask, that's a very general question. Depends what you're practicing. Like, what are you practicing? Because the kung fu master can't advise the boxer, probably. Not that I'm either a boxer nor a kung fu master. But I do know some kung fu guys, and they're pretty cool people. Hermes Trismegistus III, Modernity. The fictional personage of Hermes Trismegistus did not appear after the end of the Middle Ages, but remained very much alive through the following centuries. As early as the end of the 15th century, he began to enjoy a great vogue. This is in the beginning of the Renaissance. Indeed, within the general context of a renewed interest for ancient mythology in the Renaissance, he profited from the craze for Hermes Mercurius, Mercury. And keep in mind, up until the Renaissance, we only had the Asclepius. That was the only Hermetic text they had. Both figures were often blended together, with the result that Hermes entered the cultural imagination under these two forms, Hermes Mercurius and Hermes Trismegistus, to the point of serving as a sort of catch-all name. So there was two Hermeses, and then there was other Hermeses, different ones from different eras. As we saw last time, sometimes the Hermetists even didn't realize that two characters, the two Hermes, were sort of the same, and conflated them, even the Hermetists, because they weren't the originators in some ways of Hermetic thought. They were the recorders of a tradition without text that came down to them. So it's interesting that Hermes Mercurius in the Renaissance and Hermes Trismegistus were at this time considered two distinctly different people, but also sometimes conflated, of course. And it wasn't until this era, into the 1400s, that Ficino translated the Corpus Hermeticum and gave us more Hermetic texts. He didn't finish the translations and regretted them being published without his permission, of course. But apart from his proximity with Hermes Mercurius, the new interest in Hermes Trismegistus had much to do, of course, with Ficino's translation of the Corpus Hermeticum, published in 1471, and his commentaries on it. See Hermetic literature. And we will dive more into Hermetic literature both on this channel and in the book club, and with my students, if you're one of them. We do this all the time. Ficino gave a genealogy of Hermes Trismegistus slightly different from those proposed by authors of late antiquity, such as Lactantius and Augustine, and by medieval authors that we all went over in the previous video. But like them, he held that he had lived after the time of Moses, and considered him a major link in the chain of great philosophers. Ficino and Giovanni Pico della Mirandola considered Hermes as one of the first theologians. For Ficino, only Zoroaster was earlier. And whereas Ficino believed Hermes to have lived after Moses, Lodovico Lazzarelli even concluded from Diodorus Siculus, Bibliotheca Historica 1, that Hermes lived far before Moses. Regardless of such differences, Renaissance adherents of the Prisca Theologia concurred in giving Hermes an important place in their genealogies of wisdom, consisting of lists such as Enoch, Abraham, Noah, Zoroaster, Moses, Hermes Trismegistus, Orpheus, Pythagoras, Plato, the Sibyls. And the Prisca Theologia is the idea that you can put together a true original theology from which all other derivations have come, and that there was this one original belief, and that by studying the history of things you can construct that and return to it. It's kind of similar and often conflated with the idea of Sophia Perennis, the perennial wisdom, but the academics will actually, in some essays, and many academics treat these terms as the same in their papers, so that can be confusing. But some of my favorite academics draw the distinction between Prisca Theologia as the desire to piece together the original wisdom from the fragments that have come down to us, versus Sophia Perennis, which is this idea of a singular, eternal, original wisdom that moves through all these things and just needs to be identified. So there are two ways of sort of I want to say skinning the same goat, but that's not an expression. That's not a thing. What am I talking about? I don't know. Sometimes, the brain is a delightful creative tool, isn't it? Already in the Middle Ages, Hermes Trismegistus had been represented in pictures, albeit rarely, for example, in an illuminated text of Augustine in the 14th century, but as of the 15th century, representations became more frequent. Thus, he appears in Baccio Baldini's Florentine Picture Chronicle, as well as in several alchemical treatises, like Aurora Consurgens and Thomas Norton's Ordinal of Alchemy. At that time, and as late as the 16th century, he, or sometimes Apollonius instead, is represented as a sage seated in a crypt, tomb, pyramid, or temple, holding the emerald tablet in his hands. Oh, thank you very much, Brad. Much appreciated. And David Epstein, we will get to your question at the end. I will start and get to that at the end. Yeah, off-topic questions I'm happy to answer. I'll just start them and do them at the end. We'll get more organized. I try not to make this, I don't want the show to be too structured, but I want it to have some structure, otherwise we'll get swept away, won't we? So this image of Hermes was sometimes interchanged with Apollonius of Tyana, and if you don't know, Apollonius of Tyana is often compared to Jesus Christ because he born of a virgin, came back after death, healed lepers, did all these miracles. Right, Jesus was part of a catalog with part of a culture of prophets that exists in ancient times and existed for a long time. Today we have sort of lost that, unless you consider. Well, I have some of my theories on what how modern prophets manifest. Ask me sometime. But I think prophets are still there because we see them among the rejected figures of society, right? They're not the people that are leading us. They're the people who are rejected and spurned by society, usually because they are, speaking truth to power, but also because they're often a little unhinged. I mean, that's what it kind of takes, often mentally ill. I think Isaiah was considered to be schizophrenic by some scholars. But yeah, so here we have Apollonius of Tyana interchangeable with Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus, and often pictured holding the emerald tablet in a variety of environments, tomb, pyramid, or temple, right? Holding the emerald tablet, which of course in Latin is pronounced
Smaragdine tablet, or the tabula smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up.
The tabula smaragdina. My pronunciation is maybe not better than his, but that's funny. In Botticelli's Primavera, the god Hermes is represented as looking upwards and playing with clouds, touching them lightly as if they were beneficent veils through which transcendent truths might reach. The beholder, therefore, a connection could be established between that representation and Hermes Trismegistus. 6 years later, an artist inlaid the pavement of Siena Cathedral with a panel representing Hermes Trismegistus as a tall and venerable bearded man, dressed in a robe and cloak, wearing a brimmed mitre, and in the company of two personages, supposedly, possibly Moses and Plato is the guess, with the inscription Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus Contemporaneus Moisi. So Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus, contemporary of Moses. Not long after, Pope Alexander VI, who was the protector of Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, commanded Pinturicchio to paint a great fresco in the Borgia apartments of the Vatican. It abounds with Hermetic symbols and zodiacal signs, and there we see Hermes Trismegistus, young and beardless, in the company of Isis and Moses. Around 1500, he was painted on a wall of the church St. Walburgis in Zutphen, in the Low Countries, in the company of Maria, the newly born Jesus, angels, and sibyls. On a pilaster of a Sistine room in the Biblioteca Vaticana, a painting, 1587, shows him with attributes of Mercurius. The caption informs us that he is Mercurius Thoth, inventor of the alphabets. The other examples of his presence in Roman Catholic buildings could be adduced. Hermes Trismegistus occasionally served as a figure within fictional narratives, as in Francois Rabelais, the author of Gargantua and Pantagruel, 1532 to 1564, or thereabouts. Rabelais not only evinces a good knowledge of traditions related to Hermes Mercurius, but he also gives Panurge, one of the main heroes of the story, many traits of Hermes Trismegistus. Panurge refers to the latter when he claims having a thrice greatest codpiece and being fond of the thrice greatest bottle of wine, obviously. Through his medical knowledge, Panurge claims to possess the Philosopher's Stone. He is not only connected to the tradition of Hermetic magic, but he is also something of the humanist Hermes, i.e. the ideal figure of the Renaissance savant. Did you catch something in all of that? There's something really interesting that got glossed over there. That is how, and it's the way in which academics do us often the greatest disservice. And it's not necessarily intentional. But if you blink, you miss it. The text says, the dictionary says, Panurge offers to the latter when he claims having thrice greatest codpiece and being fond of the thrice greatest bottle. What's the thrice greatest bottle? Well, the academics who wrote this, in parentheses there, say of wine, obviously. So in the era of potions, pharmacy, and fortified wine laced with opium or ergot or mandrake or even small amounts of nightshade, all kinds of potions and fortified wines were made. See Brian Murarescu's Immortality Key. But in the case of Gargantua and Pantagruel by Rabelais, who famously said, from whom Crowley took do what thou wilt, there's a different theory, and it's proposed by Chris Bennett, who did a great presentation on that on the 2020 Crowley Mass, which was streamed on my channel. He asked me to help him host that event and run it. It was the first time I had to do any live streaming whatsoever of anything, of an event. And we barely got through it, and you can see it on the channel. Richard Kaczynski and Michael Staley and many other great presenters did lectures, some of the earliest videos on my channel. And Chris Bennett did his whole presentation on Gargantua and Pantagruel. So the academics saying of wine, obviously, what do you mean of wine? That's such a non-academic thing to say in the first place, because you knew wine wasn't just wine back then. They weren't able to up the alcohol content like we are today, is what we're told, right? It was much weaker, so they fortified it with other things, maybe even cannabis. That's the argument. I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, they grew that stuff and they did know how to use it. They burnt it on altars. So obviously they also put it in beverages. And so that's his argument. But there it says, through his medical knowledge, Panurge claims to possess the Philosopher's Stone. Well, what if he did know how to make other compounds, right? We won't get too much into that because that's the research of P.D. Newman, and should leave it to him and Chris Bennett and my other guy who's been on the podcast, another Aquarius. I'm blanking on his name, but he's there as well, and they've done a roundtable with Brian Murarescu on YouTube that you can see. If you look for Chris Bennett and Brian Murarescu, you'll get some very interesting stuff. So there's a lot there. Let me just take a glance at the comments. Okay, good. Glad you're enjoying talking amongst yourselves. We had a crazy thunder and lightning storm here, right, and it came closer and closer to the city, to right above the house, to the point where the whole sky was lighting up like there was being strobe lit constantly. I've never seen a lightning storm like that in my life, let alone in Canada, let alone in Vancouver. I've seen them in Edmonton and other places in Missouri and stuff, but yeah, it was amazing. The pictures, I've shared them on Facebook of the lightning, was incredible. Thank God they didn't cause any massive fires, but what a gorgeous storm. It felt like, Yahweh himself is stomping his feet. Because he lives above like Thor and Zeus's flat in the apartment of gods, and so he's stomping, and then they're pissed off and they're shooting at lightning bolts back, and it's just a whole mess. Quite a few other commentators dealt with the figure of Hermes Trismegistus in the 16th century, not least Francesco Patrizzi, whose Discussiones Peripateticae 1581 abounds in references to him. That would be discussions of people who travel, peripatetic in English. It means you move around a lot, like the peripatetic mendicant friars who just travel. But already in Patrizzi's time, beginning in 1567 with Gilbert Genebrard, his great antiquity, and by the same token that of the Hermetic writings, had been seriously called into question. What followed was an agonizing process of reappraisal, culminating in Isaac Casaubon, yes, that Casaubon's demonstration in 1614. So this is like, yeah, not long after Dee died, or not long after, that these writings could not have been written prior to the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. Therefore, debunking them, because if they're pre-Christian, then they can't predict Christ, and therefore they have no value of prophecy, let alone spiritual wisdom. That would be Casaubon's argument. Francis Yeats was corrected by in 2002, who had argued that Casaubon was the first to argue for the late dating of the Hermetica, but in fact it was someone else. It was Patrizzi, I believe. And Genebrard. Anyway, in spite of this outcome, so yeah, the Hermetica is not pre-Christian. That's okay. The ideas in it certainly are. In spite of this outcome, interest in Hermes Trismegistus did not disappear, but it occasionally took on additional forms, not at least political ones. In the Elizabethan period, the figures of Hermes Trismegistus and Mercury were utilized with a view of justifying the pretension of realizing an ideal empire. The idea that a magical or Mercurian monarch could achieve an ideal kingdom or empire seems to have first appeared in English literature with Edmund Spenser's The Faerie Queene. Oh, I was going to grab my big, beautiful 3-volume version of that, rewritten in modern language and English as a story for modern readers. Beautiful, beautiful set that's out there. Beautiful imagery and art. My mom got it for me for my birthday last year, and it's absolutely exquisite. Of course, the original poem, The Faerie Queene, is awesome as well, and be a fun thing to record one day if I was up for the challenge. It was written intentionally in archaic language, even at its time, to give it that same feel that we get by doing thee, there, and thou in our prayers today. So this poem proposed this Hermetic idea of a Hermetic ruler who's this wise leader who can bring about a golden age and a return to higher values. And Spenser presents that idea in that poem, written under the reign of Queen Elizabeth. Spenser identified monarch and magic through the figure of Mercury, more specifically of Hermes Trismegistus. So think about how prevalent the name Hermes Trismegistus was back then. In our lifetimes, it wasn't nearly as prevalent culturally and socially, but it has begun to return to that today. Look at all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos on this with that name in it. Maybe not that many of them. There's maybe not that many, but it's become closer and closer to pop culture again, like it would have been in the past. Considered as Mercury, more specifically, is a divine channel of divine influence. Elizabeth herself, interested in magic, she consulted John Dee, was presented, she only ever consulted John Dee, never gave him a position, never gave him any job, never gave him a regular income, wouldn't even go into his house, just stood outside, and he, in her carriage, probably, and he'd come out and talk to her, and she'd give him some change. Was presented therein as the sovereign who would restore the golden age and undo the ravages wrought by the fall of man. But to be fair, when Dee wrote the Monas Hieroglyphica, he gave her private lessons explaining all the occult underlying secrets of it, because Elizabeth herself practiced alchemy. And Dr. Burns has covered this at length in her wonderful Monas Hieroglyphica course. Go to Dr. Terry Burns' YouTube channel to watch that exquisite 50-hour course. Yeah, so herself interested in magic was presented therein as the sovereign who would restore the golden age and undo the ravages wrought by the fall of man. Elizabeth's Protestantism was thus seen metaphorically as a return to the old Egyptian religion as opposed to Catholic imperialism, understood as a perversion to the true religion of Isis and Hermes Trismegistus. Likewise, much later, in his Penseroso, 1645, in which Hermes is the central character, John Milton would link poetry, Hermetism, and Protestant reform. Later in Germany, one sees Hermes Trismegistus playing a similar role in W. Kriegsmann's Conjectaniorum de Germanicae Gentis Origine ac Conditore Hermete Trismegisto, We think our titles are long these days, eh? 1684, where he appears not as a benefactor of humanity in general, but only as a patron of the German race. Kriegsmann resorted to weighty philological demonstrations aimed at proving he had been the founder of the German people. He associated the German Thoth with Theut, which is the spelling from the Coptic Egyptian version of Thoth, I believe. By the same token, Hermes Trismegistus, right? Theut is Hermes, Theut, and Teutonic. So this guy tried to like smash together, be like, look, it's Theut, and that's like Teutonic. It's similar to what a lot of like the silly language conspiracy theorists they do today. That, and you know, without looking at the actual origins of words, they just compare anything that sounds even remotely similar. It's like people who argued blue in the face that hermetic comes from hermit, or that hermit comes from Hermes, which it doesn't. It comes from Eremitus, of the desert. And Kriegsmann's a cool name though. That means war man. Yeah, Krieg in German is war. He's the war man. My name is war man. Hermes war man. No. 9. Hermes Trismegistus continued to play a positive role as one of the guardians or representatives of true wisdom. For example, in Heinrich Nollius's novel Pererge Philosophici Speculum 1623, which stands in the wake of early Rosicrucian literature, the hero, Philarethes, goes to Egypt in order to meet Hermes Trismegistus, who has been put in charge by God of instructing human beings about how to find the Arx Fortunae. Likewise, the learned Jesuit Athanasius Kircher, shout out, friend of the show, notably in his Oedipus Aegyptiacus, 1652, he popularized the version of the Tree of Life we all know and love today. He didn't create it, of course. Saw in him the inventor of the hieroglyphs and of the truths inscribed on the stone obelisks. Alchemical treatises, for example, Michael Meyer's Symbola Aurea Mensa Duodecim Nationum, 1617, occasionally devote an entire laudatory chapter to him. Besides, many such books of the 17th century are rich in pictures on which Hermes Trismegistus appears, usually on the front page, either alone or in the company of personages such as Hippocrates, Galen, Aristotle, Geber, Paracelsus. At the dawn of the Enlightenment in 1700, the Jesuit Joachim Bouvet, a mathematician and musician who was corresponding with Leibniz about the I Ching, wrote to him that this Chinese document is like a symbol invented by some extraordinary genius of antiquity, such as Mercury Trismegistus, to render visible the most abstract principles of all the sciences. That's 1700 they were getting into the I Ching. According to Bouvet, Fouhy, the supposed inventor of the I Ching, is the same as Enoch, who is the same as Hermes Trismegistus, and both are prototypes of Christ. He further claimed that Enoch, Fouhy, Hermes taught the mathematical symbols of that divinatory instrument to men endowed with superior intelligence. We also encounter him in Michel de Ramsay's novel Le Voyages de Cyrus, 1727. There we learn through the discourse of a pontiff in Thebes that after a shipwreck, Hermes Trismegistus' mother gave birth to him on a desert island and died shortly thereafter. Then a goat fed him with its milk. He passed his early years in the desert eating dates. I mean, how bad does a date have to be that you end up eating them? Silly. Later. Eventually he was gratified with an apparition of the first Hermes or Mercury, who taught him and gave him the name Trismegistus. From that time on, he was called upon to become himself a great teacher in symbols and mysteries. Let me check the comments. See if there's any comments before we get back to the fun. Jorge in the house. Good to see you, brother. It was so fun having that last. That last session was so sort of bittersweet in the Hermetica course with Litwa. Jorge was there. A lot of people were there. He'll do it again. He'll do more again. Don't think Litwa's going to stop teaching Hermetica. And the Poimandres is a great time to bring up his Poimandres course. He's doing a Poimandres reading course of the Hermetica. So we just are going to go through the Poimandres on Monday evenings, starting September 7th. And it's less than $100 to do the course. 4 weeks. 4 Mondays, go through the whole Poimandres. Now, David Litwa does require you to be able to sound out the words, sort of. But you could learn that in time. You could learn the alphabet and learn how to sound out the words in time. I usually have some of the worst Greek in any of the reading classes I'm in because, again, it's just never was my focus until slowly I'm starting to get more into it. And I can, I've got basic grammar, but yeah, I still learn a lot. That's what's shocking. I go to them because I still learn a lot. And I like learning on my feet as well. My mind moves quickly, and I'm a fast study, and it gives me an excuse to power through 2 more hours of Greek. He also has a course on Greek, which I think he's discounted to help people do the Poimandres and prepare for that. So lots of fun stuff. And if you want to study more Hermetic literature with me in person, on Zoom, in the group, we have a way for you to do that now once a month. Check it out. Walk the way of Hermes and unveil the life and light of the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermetic spirituality. Join our monthly book club to learn and meet others who seek the ancient wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus. Join via YouTube membership's book club tier and subscribe at hermeticspirituality.com. All right. Let's get back to it. I'm just going to scroll through these, see if there's any questions about the text we've been studying so far. We'll get to them all at the end, of course. But, yeah. Thought in German starts with G, with G. I don't know. Gedanken. Gedanken. Yeah. Ich denke, du denkst, sie es denkt. Wir denken, du denkst, sie denken. Gedanken. Es ist super leibend mit dir Deutsch zu sprechen, immer. Also, wieder nach zu dieser Buche soll wir leben jetzt. Auf Englisch, aber nicht Deutsch. English, nur English jetzt. Kein Problem. All right. Many authors in alchemical literature followed in the footsteps of earlier ones, granting Hermes Trismegistus a distinguished place in their works. Editions of alchemical books in German showed him decked out in Rococo style and decor. For example, Friedrich Roth Schulz's Deutsches Theatrum Chemicum, or Schröder's Neue Alchemistische Bibliothek. Oh, I lied. There's German. Nicolas Langlet de Fresnoy, Histoire de la Philosophie Hermétique, presented him as identical with King Siphoas, who reigned around 900 BC. In 1733, another alchemist, Erd de Naxagoras, Aurum Velis oder Guldnis Vlies, 1733, claimed that a plaque of precious emerald engraved with inscriptions was made for him after his death and discovered in his tomb by a woman named Zora in the valley of Hebron. Hermann Fichtold, in one of his alchemical theosophical books, Turba Philosophorum, 1763, that's an important one by many reckonings, gave a long narrative halfway between mythical history and literary fiction. It opens with a scene representing Hermes, the Egyptian priest, strolling between the Elysian fields and the great world ocean. I mean, they must not have discovered the Tartarian maps yet. This passage is designed to introduce a dialogue between Hermes and a few other fictitious persons, and is partly inspired by Michael Myers' book. Michael Myers is a famous Rosicrucian character, spent a lot of time in Prague, and Dr. Chato did a whole workshop course on I think the sounds and song, or a play based on moving through his symbola. She did a lot of work on that. She's told me a lot about it. I hope she does something publicly with that at some point. But also, he's a major character in the Prague scene in the time after D. So when we do the Prague ENOCHIACON in 2027, the week leading up to it, we'll have a 3-day retreat, sightseeing tour with Dr. Burns around Prague, and we'll learn more about Michael Meyer then. Where was I? This passage is designed to introduce a dialogue between Hermes and a few other fictitious persons, and is partly inspired by Michael Meyer's book. Such examples are all the less surprising since Hermetic science had come to be frequently used to qualify alchemy, quote-unquote, with Hermes, quote-unquote, or Hermes Trismegistus, designating the tutelary figure of that science. Outside the pale of alchemy, Johann Gottfried Herder, in Über die älteste Urkunde der Menschheit, about the most ancient document of mankind, 1774, presents Hermes Trismegistus and or Thoth as the founder and inventor of numbers, letters, language, etc., and hence as the great benefactor of humanity. In addition, in 1801, he wrote for his journal, Adrastea, a long poetical dialogue titled Hermes and Pymander, the two figures who appear in Corpus Hermeticum I. Shortly after, in his Manière de se récréer avec le jeu de cartes nommé Tarot, 1783, Etela, pseudonym of Jean-Baptiste Allier, claimed that the Book of Thoth, i.e., the deck of Marseille, yes, the Tarot Marseille deck, which they called the Book of Thoth at that time in the late 1700s apparently, claimed that the Book of Thoth had been devised by a committee of sages presided over by Hermes Trismegistus himself in the 171st year of after the flood. Etea's book was to be newly edited and reprinted several times and played an important role in encouraging further discourses about Hermes. And it's interesting how texts that just that completely fabricate new ideas end up becoming the things that perpetuate the original ideas and texts that they are based on. That's a fascinating phenomenon. I mean, we see that even today. Look at all the AI channels. They end up still perpetuating the things that they are distorting, marketeering and profiting from, but still promoting those things, right? How many people are gonna go check out Dr. Litwa's Hermetica or discover Brian Cotnoir's fabulous book on the Emerald Tablet because they saw some goofy AI shit. Probably a lot, and increasingly more in the future. So that stuff will act as funnels to some people to come to more veritable and deep sources of knowledge and to start engaging and comparing themselves with the actual text. And some people, of course, it'll be everything they need. Some people are going to see AI content and just say, that's all I ever need. That's all I want. Give me more. But I've just been thinking about this a lot because of talking with Dr. Puka about how she teaches her students in universities to deal with the AI situation, and she's a big proponent of teaching them to use it well so that it doesn't replace your cognitive load and destroy your brain, and instead just functions as a tool like any other tool, like this streaming technology and stuff. So yeah, that's the dangerous thing there, is turning over your brain to it. And that's why I spent all day preparing for the stream. I read this all already this morning, and then I sat down and wrote for an hour and a half. That little 3-minute intro. It took me an hour and a half to write that. The intro to the start of the video. Also in the same period, he came to be identified with Hiram, mentioned in the Bible and present in the Masonic degree of Master Mason. Such is the case in a German or French fringe Masonic rite established around 1790, the Magi of Memphis. The instructions of this rite contain a series of drawings, one of which represents Hermes Trismegistus instead of Hiram proper, rising from the grave and giving a statement ending with these words, "Remember me. My true name is Mercurius for the Egyptians, Thoth for the Phoenicians, Hermes Trismegistus for the Greeks, and all over the earth I am Hiram." Prior to that picture, and besides others on paper, there survives a colored painting on wood panel, anonymous and probably made around 1740, now in the Museum of Pharmacy in Basel, Switzerland, of course. It depicts Hermes Trismegistus standing alone, carrying the armillary sphere and a scroll containing the first verse of the Emerald Tablet. And don't forget, The emerald tablet in Latin is pronounced like this.
Smaragdine tablet, or the tabula smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up.
You did get it in the end, Tabula Smaragdina. Just so trippy to see see this stuff in the mainstream. It's so trippy. It's like what we always dreamed of as kids in the 90s. We're like, whoa, wouldn't it be cool if people actually cared about this a little bit and, you know, it was talked about? That would be so cool. Thought in German doesn't equal thoth. Well, no, the argument was that theo, thoth, equaled Teuton, Teutonic, as in Teutonic. Theot, Teut, thoth. That's the shitty linguistic job interpretation he did. Just trying, he'll bend over backwards trying to make the greatest sage of all time the founder of your race, right? So silly. Where were we? Okay, check out some questions. Don't name your AI like LOL like your lamb chops. I don't know what that means, but sure. Yeah, I agree. Okay, question. Brian, wasn't the three wise men magi before Christ? Yes. I'm not sure what you're actually asking. Oh, the thing that wasn't before Christ is the Hermetica. When we say it wasn't pre-Christian, we're saying the Hermetica wasn't pre-Christian, which it was thought to be pre-Christian up until Casaubon proved that it wasn't in 1614. He proved that Trismegistus, that the Hermetica was post-Christian, which it is. Just the ideas in it, of course, go back, as they always do. Yeah. What else do we have here? Yeah, love storms. Lux Pendragon, good to see you. Paul Francis Young, thanks for welcome back to the show. Nothing on the writings of Homer and Hesiod. In what sense? Nothing on the writings of Homer and Hesiod. What do you mean? There's an interesting article in Gnosis magazine called Joseph Smith, America's Hermetic Prophet by Lance Owens. Cool. Cassandra of Troy was gifted with a perfect prophecy, but cursed to be never to be believed. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hello. Skin the cat. That's the phrase. It is skin the cat. That is a phrase. Oh, what a gross. You can't eat cats. You can't eat cats, Kevin. Hiram. Hiram. Yeah. Same 42. Satori in the house. Same lie as long dead people. We're in our orders before they were created. Yeah. Yeah. It's like LTC. It's like, I was in this temple, and we're like, yeah, it shut down before that time, as far as they said. Whatever. Who cares? Where were we? Damn. In the Romantic period, the figure of Hermes Trismegistus receded into the background, replaced as it was by other ones, Orpheus in particular. But later in the period of the occultist current, Edouard Schuré, in his influential and heavily syncretistic book Le Grand Initié, 1889, devoted to Hermes. Here again, a blending of Mercurius and Hermes Trismegistus, a long chapter which is a vibrant homage. The later chapters deal with Rama, Krishna, Moses, Orpheus, Pythagoras, Plato, and Jesus. Because Jesus, he knows me, and he knows I'm right. And I've been looking for Jesus all my life. Genesis, such a great band. Such a great band. Therefore, what we have here is a chain of initiates comparable to that which had flourished in the Renaissance, but now extended to include Eastern traditions. At the same time, the personage also inspired the American writer Henry W. Longfellow, whose strong interest in esoteric traditions is well documented. His drama, The Golden Legend, 1851, contains a passage of 24 verses in which the Nile, Gibbers' alchemy, and Hephaestus are evoked in a blend of Egyptian and Arabian wisdom. His poem, Hermes Trismegistus, written around 1881, evokes in 80 verses the existence of a forlorn tradition to be recovered thanks to Hermes Trismegistus, with whom the author identifies himself. So Longfellow, in the poem, identifies himself as speaking as Hermes. And this is all leading up to, you know what, the Victorian Occult Revival. Of course, it's also the beginning of the word occultism was coined also in that era by Blavatsky, I believe. The American esotericist Manly P. Hall ranges among the authors of the 20th century who were most influential in continuing to spread Hermes Trismegistus' image, not least through his book, The Encyclopedic Outline of Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Philosophy, 1928. Not only does it contain a chapter and many other passages devoted to him, but it also presents what seems to be the latest noteworthy portrait. It is in color and shows Hermes Thoth with his foot upon the back of Typhon. The caption informs us that he is the personification of universal wisdom. He wears the ancient Egyptian Masonic apron and is surrounded by other symbols like dog and caduceus and scarab. It is evident from these examples that Hermes Trismegistus, as imagined and represented since the Renaissance, has served many purposes often considered to have been a real person. He has thus been holding an intermediate position between Olympus and Earth. I like that. That's really nice. Which contributed to make him an axial figure of the philosophical history of mankind, notably whenever he was seen as the representative par excellence of a perennial philosophy. In this respect, his enduring existence has been fostered by the production of a Neo-Alexandrian Hermetic literature until the present time. He also appears to have been the patron of alchemy, a welcome symbol for Egyptophilian settings, a kind of logo accompanying the titles of books, a name used to legitimate political aims, and occasionally an inspirational personage for novelists and poets. The existence of Hermes Mercurius, sometimes his twin, or even Siamese brother, as it were, may partly account for the variety of these roles. Indeed, Hermes Trismegistus possesses several of the essential attributes of Hermes Mercurius: mobility and mutability. An eclectic figure, Hermes Trismegistus easily adapts himself to various religious creeds. A liking for discourse and interpretation, he is the inspirer of the variegated forms of Neo-Alexandrian hermeneutics, and not least his position at crossroads, as exemplified by the Irenicism of Neo-Alexandrian authors, the peacefulness, the compatibility, the non-affrontability, the non-confronting nature. Irenicism means peacefulness of Neo-Alexandrian authors, and that's how that passage ends. That's how this dictionary entry ends. So, session 2 of reading from the dictionary with RC is complete. I hope you enjoyed that. And that brings us to an end of the entries on Hermes Trismegistus. We can do more. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Very much appreciated. Yeah, if you guys want to send in some more super chats or become a channel member, this is the time to do it. And we can extend this stream and check out a cool video and have some more fun if you guys want, or we can leave it there. I'm just going to remind you that we have this conference coming up, ENOCHIACON, the 3rd annual D and Kelly conference with amazing presenters coming live in person to Austin, Texas. You can also attend online and just sign up with 3 easy payments at ENOCHIACON.com or go to Arcane Research Society. And here's a song I wrote about it. I'm trying to bring more creativity to the work I do, interdisciplinary creativity, plays even, music. And so I recorded a song to promote this event. And we'll also be doing a new song recording for next year's ENOCHIACON as well, and be doing that this fall in the studio. I'll probably play it live for everyone who attends the event, so you can hear the next one. But here you go. Check out Delta D Blues. Like and subscribe, share the show, and we'll be right back with lots more. See you soon. see tonight, 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 tonight. All right, we can hang out for a bit. Please support the show. I'm saying that more than normal today because I'm not able to program goals. I'm blocked from programming. I can do quizzes, but I don't know why I'm blocked from doing goals. Maybe I don't know. So, what does Hermes and the way say? How does Hermes and the way of Hermes speak to you? All right.
The Corpus Hermeticum is a...
Oh, Satori, thanks for the comment. 42. We see this same, don't forget your towel. We see this same thing in hundreds of GD videos. The hidden truths people are not aware of. They hint at, though. The GD videos? Which GD videos? Mine? Someone else's? Or like Ike's? Or do you mean like the slop ones? Or yeah, I mean, one thing is true. I mean, I've put out over 2,000 hours of free content on this podcast. And if you made that 2,000 hours part of your 10,000 hours, that wouldn't be so bad. There's a lot of stuff hidden there in my content, and a lot of stuff that me and adepts from, even leaders and chief adepts from other orders and temples, even though you might not know that's who they are, talk about. And if you listen closely, you can learn many things. So thank you again for this, for the donation, Caladams. Keep up the great work. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much, brother or sister or whoever they are. Much appreciated. So yeah, let's have some fun with some. This is made 3 years ago. Pretty sure it's not AI. I'm pretty sure someone made this with love and care, and it looked really cool. And again, I don't try and just bring things for us to laugh about. That's fun too, of course. When things are wrong, you gotta laugh, or when they're silly, you gotta laugh. But oh, you're saying non-member videos. Oh yeah. It's not just behind a paywall. Like thousands of hours I've put out, and others people's have put out. That's just public and free.
Collection of mystical texts that date to the...
Oh, sorry. I gotta fix my earbuds. They're not registering. 1 second. The audio might go wonky for a second. I have to reset them. Sorry about that. Oh, here, check this out while I reset my earbuds. Check this out. Walk the way of Hermes and unveil the life and light of the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermetic spirituality. Join our monthly book club to learn and meet others who seek the ancient wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus. Join via YouTube membership's book club tier and subscribe at hermeticspirituality.com. All right. Yeah. Oh, Kisa. bless her. Thank you very much. So happy for you being able to play guitar again. Yes, last stream was amazing. Oh, thank you. I had so I only have one casualty from last stream. It was actually, this finger was good. The next day, all my fingers were good and actually hardening, which is what you want from calluses. Now, pro tip, for hardening your calluses, if you're learning guitar, or I was playing bouzouki, I was playing a lute at the stream, not guitar. Guitar would have actually been less hard on my fingers. I could maybe do a guitar song at the end of today. I'll see what time my buddy wants to hang out, and maybe I can go a bit long. He might even be on the stream, so hey, GR, if you're there, say so. But yeah, but then it did get worse, and it did break through and start to bleed a little bit. So yeah, but you know, that's not so bad in general. That's amazing. I mean, that my hands were a war zone for the last many years. That's why you never saw me doing book reviews and stuff, because I couldn't show my hands. That's why I don't speak and use them very often. I keep them down. It sucks. But thank you. Yeah, I'm very yeah, it makes this crazy diet I'm on worthwhile. So thank you very much. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun.
Magic, 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 magic.
The Corpus Hermeticum is a collection of mystical texts that date to the early centuries of the Common Era. The text is attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, a syncretic combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. The style of the text is a series of sermons given by Hermes, usually involving one of his students, Asclepius, Tat, and Ammon, whose names are derived from the Egyptian Imhotep, Thoth, and Amun, respectively. In the following video, we present a simplified abridgment of the text, while attempting to preserve some of the romanticism present in the arcane and cryptic prose. Due to the varied lengths of the treatises, the entire text is presented in this video as a single narrative, and the start of a new treatise will be signalled on the screen. I hope you enjoy. While meditating on the world, I was lifted to a higher level, and a vast being called out to me, asking what I wanted to learn. The being introduced himself as Poimandres, the mind or nous of all masterhood, and offered to teach me what I desired to know about the nature of things and God. A vision appeared before me, filled with limitless light and some darkness that resembled a coiled snake. The darkness transformed into a moist, chaotic nature, and a voice of fire emerged from it. Then a holy word descended from the light and transformed the moist nature into pure fire, followed by air and earth and water. Poimandres proceeds to explain that the light was God, mind, and the Logos, and that the Logos was the Son of God. He showed me a vision of the light in countless powers, and a cosmos that was beyond comprehension. The archetypal form exists in mind before the beginning of time. Nature's elements come from the will of God, and copy the cosmos beautiful to create their own cosmos. God the mind creates another mind to give form to things. This mind forms 7 rulers, who are the archons of the 7 planets that enclose the cosmos and are known as fate. God's reason merges with nature's pure formation, leaving the lower elements as pure reasonless matter. The formative mind sets in motion the spinning of the spheres from beginning to endless end.
Yeah, reasonless matter, that's an interesting phrase, and I'm not sure how accurate that would be to the actual text. This is a paraphrase, and the problem with the paraphrase of the text is you end up sometimes interpolating ideas that aren't true. I mean, so the cosmos in the Hermetica is a daimon. And I think that means it would have some relationship to, or be a part of logos, which is mind and reason in that sense.
Earth produces living creatures according.
But logos also is a daimon. It's interesting stuff. And again, remember, it's not meant to be metaphysics. So anyone trying to use it to create metaphysics, and Bull does the work there to outline what the metaphysics would be of it. And it's sort of Bull's study that led to, I guess, Hanegraaff calling bullshit. No, I'm just saying that because it works. He didn't do that to the wonderful Christian Bull, who's a remarkable scholar. But it led to this reinterpretation or renewed discovery of Hermetic philosophy as Hermetic spirituality.
To mind's will. All-Father Mind brings forth man, co-equal and beautiful, with whom he falls in love, and gives all of his own formations. Man is granted authority over the irrational lives of the cosmos. He breaks through the boundary of their spheres and shows nature God's fair form, which she loves. Nature and man thus become lovers and are intermingled. Humans are both...
Or another way of saying that is nature rejoices in nature. As our logo says in the Arcane Research Society. It's written down there. Yeah, we have stickers.
Mortal and immortal. They are subject to fate and suffering like mortals, yet have power over all. Nature and man brought forth 7 men in correspondence with the 7 natures of fire and spirit. Man was made from light and life, changing into soul and mind. All creatures were multiplied according to their kind. Man learned that he is deathless, and that the cause of death is love. Couplings and generations were founded by fate and harmony.
And man isn't necessarily made from light and life, though I guess ultimately that would be the case, but it's the idea that God is beyond, God's self is beyond all names in the Hermetica, and is beyond even the understanding of all human religions. It says that at the outset. God can't be defined, but were it to be described, God would be described as close as possible as life and light, is what the Hermetica says. But God isn't life and light. God is, isn't goodness, but yeah, it's again, we'll get more into that.
Those who learn to know themselves reach that...
So the reason I'm also not even trying to make declamatory statements about what these things are is because of the idea of it not being a metaphysics, but of it being a methodology. And that's why we call it the Way of Hermes, even though, like Bull and others will point out, there is no historical phrase, the Way of Hermes. Not like there was for the way of Jesus of Nazareth. There was the followers of the way of Jesus of Nazareth. That was a thing they said they were, followers of the way. And so we've sort of adopted that into the Hermetic Way of Hermes.
Good which transcends abundance, while those who expend love upon their body stay wandering in darkness, and suffer through their sense of death. The ignorant are deprived of deathlessness because the gloomy darkness is the root and base of the material frame. From matter came the moist nature, which composed the body in the sense world, and from this body death drains the water. God is made of light and life, and man was born from him. To return to life, one must realize they are made of, and come from, light and life. Mind is present in holy and good men, and aids them in gaining knowledge of all things, and in winning the Father's love. The wicked and depraved are far from mind, and yield to the avenging daemon, who torments them and adds fire upon them. Mind teaches about the nature of the way above. One must surrender the material body to the work of change, and let go of the body's senses and passions. Man moves upwards through the zones by de-energizing negative traits and energies. The journey ends in the 8th nature, where man becomes one with God.
I'm not sure about the phrasing of de-energizing and stuff, but as far as a reinterpretation, I mean, this is what we're sort of talking about today. That's why I thought something like this would be appropriate, because in discussing the way hermeneutically we've interpreted the Hermetica and the idea of Hermes itself, Hermes Trismegistus as text, is of course always through reinterpretation in a way that meets and serves our time, the times we live in. Everything has to be reinterpreted for our times, otherwise it doesn't really work. I mean, I know a lot of you, most of you are Americans. Actually, let me know. I'd love to know where everyone's from today. We had quite a big viewership earlier on. We got up to like 40 viewers, which is incredible for a Sunday afternoon, but thank you for being here. Yeah, I'd love to know where you guys are all from. Most people are from the States, but if you know the States, and I know, again, I know famously less than I should about the States' history, but even your core documents have to get amended, and you don't take forward all the ideas that the Founding Fathers had, right? You reinterpret them for your time to some extent. That's what your whole Supreme Court's about, I believe. Oregon in the house, Washington State, wonderful. You're just south of me if you're in Washington State. You're my neighbor, Brad. Wonderful.
Those who reach the 8th nature become
Ashland,
powers
Oregon.
in God.
It's the bomb.
Spread the word and show the way to God. People are urged to repent and to forsake ignorance.
Oh, I got roasted the other time talking about Maryland. My buddy informed me after the stream that it's pronounced Maryland. Okay. Ooh, Rose Fox, another Canadian. Good to see. West Coast Lakeshore, Michigan. I'm in the other Vancouver. Yeah, that's right. You're my Vancouver. You're my Siamese Vancouver twin. My luggage has been sent there multiple times to my utter chagrin because, damn, then you have to go back to the airport to pick it up when it arrives at the real Vancouver. Yeah, you heard me. The real Vancouver. Vancouver, not Vancouver. Actually, I'd be curious if you guys pronounce your Vancouver, the way we pronounce our Vancouver, or if you say Vancouver. Do you say Vancouver, or do you say it like we do in Canada, Vancouver? Like V-E-N-G with Vancouver, not Vancouver.
Ignorance and destruction, so that they may achieve deathlessness. Some people ignore the teaching, while others beg to be taught. They are taught the words of wisdom and how to be saved. They drink from the deathless water and give thanks to God before returning to their places of rest. And thus, Hermes said, I was filled with joy and gratitude for the awakening of my soul and true vision through Poimandres' teachings. I offer my pure reason and heart to God, who perfects itself through its own powers, and made all things consist by the word. You are more powerful than all, transcending all preeminence and better than all praise. I pray for never failing in gnosis, our common being's nature, and to be filled with your power and grace so that I may give light to my brethren and thy sons. Blessed art thou, O Father. Later, Hermes is talking to his son, Asclepius. He asks Asclepius whether all that moves is moved by something greater and of a different nature. He proceeds to explain that the cosmos, a vast and massive body, moves within a space that is bodiless and godlike, or God himself. All things that move, Hermes says, are moved by something stationary, and the rest of motion is created by the resistance of the cosmos against the celestial spheres. Furthermore, motion is caused by something interior, such as soul or spirit, with animate things moving lifeless things. Void does not exist, as all things that seem empty are full of air and spirit. The space within which all things move is bodiless, and referred to as mind and reason, or nous and logos, which are free from all body and error. God alone, who is the cause of all things, can be called the good and Father, and no other gods or spirits can be good. The greatness of the good is as powerful as the being of all things that exist.
No, it's not that no other spirits can be good. It's that nothing else other than God can be purely good. Only God can be purely good. But even God cannot be described as good because God is the creator of goodness and can therefore best be described as light and life. But God, but is not the Father. It just can only be described as Father or as good.
God is the creator of all things that exists, and nothing exists without God. Again, only God is truly good, while other immortal beings are
no
only
evil
called gods
creator
out of
in the
ignorance.
Hermetica.
God is all
No evil creator whatsoever. That's a Christian Gnostic idea. These pagans saw the world as a beautiful, good place. Sure, are there evil spirits in it and evil people? Yes.
also known as Father because he creates all things. The role of the Father is to make, and so child-making is also a most pious deed on earth. Those without children are punished in the afterlife, condemned to a body with neither man's nor woman's nature.
Dr. Litwa put that passage, he kept it, but he put it in a footnote. We had a big debate about that, which ended in some people calling others of us very, very nasty names. Apparently, some people really don't like the idea that some of us think it's a good idea to have families and children, and that that's a healthy thing. And some people think that that makes us racists and sexists and Nazis. The fact that we think we should have offspring at all. You can imagine what kind of people are saying stuff like that too, right? Yeah, that's them. And
God
they're
is the
hounding me,
source of
too,
all things,
beyond the
including
class,
mind and nature.
harassing me. It's
In the
crazy.
beginning, chaos reigned until God brought...
And Litwa said, yeah, include that text if you want. The Hermetists have a text that say he put it in a footnote because he thought that it was added later on. which is a very strong, there's a very strong argument for that. A lot of movements are kind of apocalyptic. Christianity was. And then after the world didn't end and St. Paul died, they were like, shit, what do we do? And then they had to write some more epistles and put it in Paul's name, like Colossians, where they're like, oh no, that man is the head of the household, like Christ is the head of the church, which is a complete inversion of actual Pauline epistles from earlier in the New Testament, because half those epistles are considered written after his lifetime by other people and attributed to him. Half of them are considered written during Paul's lifetime, and we know are written by him to his community. So in Corinthians, I believe, you see Pauline theology saying, take the servant, make it the head of your household, invert the hierarchy structures, right? Put everything on its head. This is apocalypticism at its finest. Don't go get married if you're a virgin and have kids and have a family. There's no point. Stay pure and holy because the end is nigh. Then the end wasn't nigh, and they had to be like, oh, well, what theology and letters do we write now to the churches to encourage them to survive? A church that doesn't promote having kids doesn't last. We all know how that works. And so maybe the Hermetists who wrote, the people around the texts originally, didn't think you should have families. Maybe they did think that. It's debatable. There's no real evidence of it, but you could argue that. And then you could argue that later on they were like, oh, our little movement, our communities are dying. This is hypothetical, of course, theoretical. And then they added that little text, hey, you got to have kids, and if you don't, you're going to be really fucked, right? That could have been how that text got added in, or maybe it was part of the original Hermetica, and they were like, hey, look, of course we're about life and light. We're also about physical erotic sex. In the Hermetica, it says that we know God best through love, and by the which kind of love? Eros. They were very pro-sex, and I think they were very pro-natalist as well, because why wouldn't they be? Most people actually, up until very recent post-psyop era times that we live in, desperately wanted to have kids. My sister's greatest regret and desire in life was to have kids. So was mine. Neither of us managed to find a way to do it. So, you know, we're living in a very misanthropic and anti-natalist era, and I think the message of the Hermetica to, you know, be fruitful and multiply, and that the glory of God is every creature fully alive, like St. Irenaeus said, is just essential. Otherwise, you're just a misanthrope on a death spiral.
Brought forth holy light and separated the elements to create the universe. 7 circles of heaven were visible, each with their appointed gods, who brought forth all creatures and living things. Humans were created to observe and learn from the marvels of heaven and the works of God. The cyclic gods govern human fate, and their deeds are memorialized on earth. Though all things decay, renewal comes from the renovation of the gods and the turning of nature's rhythmic wheel. The Godhead continually makes anew the cosmic mixture, with nature co-established within it. Later, Hermes is talking to his other son, Tat. He explains to Tat that the World-Maker created the universe with reason, or logos, not hands. He created all beings by his will, and adorned his inextensible and unique body by setting its earth in order. Man, a life that cannot die but still dies, was sent down to earth as a cosmos of the divine frame, excelling over all other lives due to reason and mind, logos and nous. And so, man strives to know the author of God's works. God sent a cup filled with mind down to earth as a prize for souls. Those who understand and baptize themselves in mind become partakers in the gnosis, which is the knowledge of man's divine nature, thus becoming made perfect men. Those who do not understand possess reason but not mind, and center their thoughts upon bodily pleasures. Those who have received God's gift have won their release from death's bonds. They embrace all things in their own mind. They have sight of the good, and speed their way unto the one and only one. The gnosis of mind is the vision of things divine and the knowledge of God. To be baptized in the cup of mind, one must first hate their body and love their self, for then they shall have mind and share in the gnosis. Choosing the better leads to becoming godly and showing piety to God. Choosing the worse only disturbs God's harmony and leads to a life of following bodily pleasures. Our path to God is through many bodies, choirs of daemons, and
for the new world order
is the beginning of knowing it. The oneness is the source and
the timing might make that seem intentional, but actually my hand slipped and hit a button and triggered it. Sorry.
Root of all, perfect and without increase or decrease. God's image can guide us on the path to God, drawing us in like a magnet to iron. God is both unmanifest and manifest, and beyond all names. He is ever present, yet not made present, for he is not made himself. By thinking about manifestation, he thinketh all things manifest. He manifests through all things, and in all. To see the unmanifest, pray to our Lord and Father for the power of thought. If you have the power, he will manifest to your mind's eyes. The Maker and Lord of all things is essential to uphold the order of the cosmos. Consider the sun, moon, and stars, to understand the one who watches over their order. Without a Lord there could be no order, and even the orderless requires a Lord. To see the earth, sea, air, fire, and stars sway would be a blessed sight. This order of the cosmos is created by the unmanifest made manifest. God creates all things, including humans, with perfect measure. He is greater than all, and the Father of them all. Behold the many beautiful and diverse works of God made with perfect measure. Only God, the unmanifest creator of all things, could have made them all. God's being is the conception and creation of all things. He must continually create everything, for without him nothing can exist. He is both the things that are and the things that are not, and all things are in him. O Father, shall I hymn thee, for you are everything and everything is in you. You are mind when you think, Father when you make, God when you act, and the good and maker of all things. God is good, and good is God. The good is eternal and stable, and nothing else can supply all that it can. Good cannot be found in anything else, as all other things contain both good and bad. The cosmos is good insofar as it makes all things, but it is not good in all other aspects. Good cannot exist in humans, as they are bound by bad, pain, and desire. Good cannot be contained in a material body fouled with bad. The greatest ill is the belief that things which are bad are actually good, and the even greater ill is the lust for bodily pleasures that leads us away from good. The essence of the good is the beautiful, which is of God. To seek God is to seek the beautiful, and the path to it is devotion joined with gnosis.
So I think the way to approach this, because what you have is a blending of Hermetic ideas that go beyond the Hermetica. Some of these interpretations, if you know the Hermetica, are almost even contradictory in some parts. But the Hermetica itself has contradictory things within it, because it's not a metaphysics, it's a methodology, it's a way of spirituality. And the way I look at this is like this is an example of the blended Hermetic tradition as it has come down to us, because this is just some person who made a video. Maybe it's 3 years old, so maybe I guess they could have used AI to generate all the text and maybe even the voice. I don't really know how good AI was 3 years ago, and still don't really understand what it can do today, of course. But interpreting it as a whole, right, as just what some people are seeing. Like this video has almost 56,000 views. So this is what a lot of people will think of when they think of Hermeticism or Hermetism. So engage with the ideas as they're presented when you see these things. That's what I would recommend, rather than comparing them and nitpicking them, what's true to the original Hermetica text or which translation or whatever. Don't worry about that. Just deal with each idea on its own terms. That's my approach of how to think about these things.
Those who do not follow the path of devotion and gnosis call things beautiful and good, even though they are enveloped in bad. These things are hard to live without, but we must not mistake them for the true essences of the beautiful and good. Awaken from ignorance those who can. It shrouds the earth, ensnaring souls in bodies and hindering salvation. Seek salvation and the gates of knowledge, where clear light shines and souls are sober. Discard the cloak of ignorance and darkness to see the truth and reject evil. Ignorance is a loathsome veil that clouds the senses and fills the...
Okay, what's going on in my chat? I'm not going to allow this to happen. We're not going to do this here. I'm going to address these questions, and then I'm going to tell you why we're not going to do this here. Yeah. Great to see where everyone's from. Oregon, Washington, Maryland. Oh, Canada, eh? The Waste Lake Shore of Michigan. I like Michigan. Other Vancouver, New Hampshire, live for your time. Midwest Canada. Yep. The Abramelin mosquito heaven. You believe, Null who says, I think it was Agrippa that believed Poimandres was the Christ. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's true. 42. I think Agrippa did think that. Protect me for good and from evil. From you. Paul Francis Young says, when I first read this years ago, it made me think the never-ending story in the sense of it being like a children's tale. So I wrote a children's book on the story. Wonderful. Working on the artist now. That's beautiful. Let me know. I want to hear about that. I love children's books. I've been enjoying Dr. Puka's new one. First book. Yeah, this is going to hopefully help dispel some of the satanic panic. Her children's book on witches and wizards, and it's absolutely cool. Yeah, bring a little reason to the education of young people on the esoteric. So, Noel who says, in some of the tractates, the Hermetists definitely seem aligned with Sethians in that everything physical is evil, and it claims that the cause of death is sex. The Sethians claim that. The Hermetists never claim that. They don't say everything is evil, physical is evil, and they believe sex is one of the holiest things and most important things. Now, when the Hermetica says that that the cause of death is sex, it's actually, we talk about this a lot with Litwa and other class formats. The reason the Hermetica says that is because being born is the cause of death. So yes, sex creates life, and therefore is the cause of death. That's what it means. It's quite clear on that, actually, though not all translations are equally clear, as we know. Esoteric Angela, 400 never been able to have children either. Yeah. It's been a rough era. They really brainwashed us when we were young, when I was growing up, to not have kids. And even the other day on a show, I saw some character say, this female character say, "Oh, I'm only 26," because she was and the doctor said, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be, obviously you're very young and you shouldn't be thinking of kids for many years," which is a really weird thing for a doctor to say, because doctors above everyone know how biology works. Yeah. But yeah, they really did do that. Fortunately, most of my generation did end up having kids, because Gen X, people older than me, most of my friends who grew up from my class, they had kids, but they did it, in a different age. 20 years ago was a different time. I'd like to find a woman Willie tosses to have a child with, but I live in Oregon and they're all batshit insane. Well, obviously they're not all batshit insane, but yes, there is mass psychosis formation happening like crazy right now. We see that in the news with the current thing going on with the woman who killed her 3 kids, and everyone thinks that it was justified and that they want to kill their kids too, and they're posting videos all over the internet about they're abusing their children, putting them on camera crying, and saying that they wish they could also kill them. I've seen hundreds of these videos compiled and spewed out across the internet. Why are they doing this? Who knows? What's the end game? Well, obviously, antinatalism is very popular. It's a part of radical environmentalism that believes humans don't deserve to live and humans should die out to preserve nature. That is a popular idea. Quakers. 40 Satori says, Quakers, as they were dying out, decided kids was a good idea. Yeah, my family, my Bransford family that's from Dublin, in the 1700s, before the family name is Houghton, one of the family names in Dublin. We had Houghton, Kerrs. We have a bunch of family branches of my family in Dublin. But one of them was Houghton. And before the Houghtons were in Ireland, they were in France. And before that, they were in the court of Edward the Bruce in Scotland. And they were Quakers. And then they went to France, and then they went to Dublin. Crazy, right? Yeah. Brad says, the Poimandres was the dynamite that blew a hole in the wall. I eventually ran into it when I was an evangelical fundamentalist Christian. Yeah, man. Ryan says, children are not always biological. One can understand their students as one's children, in a sense, some cases upending the usual inheritance schemes. I've never heard of that upending inheritance schemes, but that's in Germany. They have the idea of house children, like a childless landlord would see his tenants as his children, and they would come to serve a similar role in his life. Bildungskinder is the word. House children. But children are your children. You can adopt. That's all good. But if you don't have children, then your community, your ideas, your religion, your teaching, your culture die out. And if you drop below a certain population, it gets wiped out. That's what's happening in Western culture, and it was good while it lasted. But it's over now. Don't worry. You won't have to worry about it. It's the next generation's problem. Can you sense some tongue-in-cheek there? Selena Antonia, if all the women around you are crazy around you, you might be the problem. Yes, I do think if you actually think that they're all crazy, then then you might be the problem. But obviously, I think he was speaking colloquially, hyperbolically, as in they're all crazy. When women say this, when a female friend's like, all men are scumbags and evil, like, she's not, clearly she doesn't really mean that, or she wouldn't tell me that, because she's not saying I'm scumbag and evil. She's just bitching. I have 2 little sisters. I've heard them say everything you can ever imagine to say about men, especially given their experiences. But they didn't actually mean it, because they wouldn't be telling me that if they mean it, because they don't think I'm that way. They don't think the good men in their lives are that way. So it's a colloquial thing. But yeah, what do they say? If you can't find the crazy person on the bus, it's you. There's some truth to that. Maybe ask them why you drive them crazy. See, that's what I'm saying I won't put up with here. When someone makes a comment, because we want to have fun comments, don't make it personal and imply that they're at fault, because that's just not very nice. So don't say, oh, why do you drive them crazy? Nah, don't do that. But welcome to the show. Tennessee. Take me to another place. Take me away from all that hurts me. Let me understand your plan. That was I bought that on cassette and ripped it onto other cassettes, and then ripped both those onto another, so that I eventually had a cassette with just that one song, both sides. It took days to do that. I loved that song. I don't drive them crazy. It's the opposite. Yeah. Come on. Let's stay friends here. Yeah. So there's a lot of problems these days with men and women. This is not the place to litigate which gender's crazier or can be crazier. You got crazy people everywhere. We always have had, and there's good people everywhere. That's what we're trying to create, is communities of good people. That's why I'm doing events like my conference coming up this November 6th through 8th in Austin, Texas, which you can attend online or in person. And it's going to be so much fun with some of the most amazing presenters. Scott Michael Stenwick teaching how to use kakudaimons in Enochian magic to create wealth. And, this is not some bum teaching you how to create wealth. This is someone who has a lot of wealth showing you how to do it. So worth listening to, maybe. And those will be limited workshops for only those attending in person. But you can also attend online and communicate and ask questions in real time. And we just have such amazing presenters. It is going to be a blast. And let's get groovy to the song I wrote about Dee and Kelly. See tonight, 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 tonight. Oh, thank you for the very kind comment, Brad, about my singing. I appreciate it. Yeah, sort of was devising the melody as I recorded the vocals in the studio. That's why it took 7 takes. And you can watch all 7 takes live, filmed in the studio on my YouTube members. There's a bunch of behind-the-scenes music recording ones, and I'll do more music behind the scenes in studio at Red Light Sound in East Van when we do the upright bass addition to this song. And we'll add another verse and swell, and then some other, maybe ENOCHIAN sub voce to the final recording that will be sold on a limited edition 7-inch vinyl. So that'll be a lot of fun, and the music and all that sort of creative stuff is funded by you guys. It's funded by my membership. It's what you guys are what allows me to do that. So thank you for the donations that allow me to keep doing cool music, original music, real art, done with instruments that we play with bleeding fingers into overpriced, well, no, to expensive microphones, well worth every cent. So thank you for the donations towards the recording and creative endeavors of this project.
With desire, hindering one's ability to hear and see what should be heard and seen. Over the next 3 days, Hermes gives 3 sermons to Asclepius and Tat. He begins by explaining, the soul is deathless, and man is a rational part of the immortal...
Oh, and we're 6 channel memberships away from getting a new emoji. So what do you want the new emoji to be? Because we might hit that today or tomorrow before some of the membership churns. That's the technical term. So yeah, what should the new emoji be? I want ideas. Go crazy. Give me crazy ideas. You know me. I know you. Show me what you got.
Cosmos created and sustained by God. The Father, eternal and transcending, made the universe and endowed it with deathlessness. The lives of living creatures were sown into the universal body to order forth life. Heavenly bodies preserve order, and their restoration is their composition. Man, made in the image...
Oh, it's fun. You think a Hermes emoji, but it's hard. Wouldn't it be hard to portray? What image of Hermes would I use? What would the image of Hermes be? Because what does Hermes look like? Because the emojis are tiny. They're very tiny. Squish their head.
...of the cosmos conceives of God as bodiless and as the good mind. All things are by and in God, who is the source, limit, and constitution of all things. Hermes says that he will now explain the sermon about sense, which is distinct from thought. Both are present in humans, while for other beings, sense is only a part of nature. Sensing and thinking are intertwined, being necessary for each other. Mind conceives all thoughts, and the seeds of God lead to virtuous thoughts. The gnosis of God may lead to persecution, but transforms the bad into good. The cosmic course can be both good and bad, influencing the process of becoming like God. The cosmos creates, absorbs, and renews all things, with bodies being composed of different elements. God is the Father and source of all things, while the cosmos is the Son who orders them. All things exist in God, and understanding leads to belief. The mind has the power to come to truth, which is credible to those who understand it. Hermes explains to Tat the nature of God, the good, and the cosmos. The good, he says, is the creator and the cause of everything, and it wills to be known. The energy of God is his will, and his essence is to will the being of all things. To perceive the divine, one must focus solely on it, stilling all senses and motions. The soul can become like God through contemplation of the beauty of the good, and the gnosis of the good is attained through holy silence. Ignorance is the vice of the soul, while gnosis is its virtue. A soul that persists in vice and ignorance cannot attain deathlessness or the good. The senses are necessary for knowledge, but true knowledge is obtained through the mind. The cosmos is beautiful but not good, as it is material and subject to change. It is the
And so you can see the lack of this. It's working off texts that don't have the distinction Litwa created of translating nous appropriately when it refers to higher consciousness versus when it refers to the lower cognition mind. And then that, again, is distinct from logos, which is our capacity to reason. So here, with interpretations like this, in this kind of format, they're using words like mind and reason, but you don't know which term they're using. So it becomes almost useless for understanding the actual Hermetic ideas.
genesis of qualities and quantities, and its being is in becoming. The universe is made up of both material and non-material elements, with the non-material element being responsible for moving the material element in a sphere-like way. The soul is the source of
Winged Hermes sandals. See, I don't think that would show up in an emoji, but maybe. You know, it's so interesting we learned from the other day's stream, that Hermes wasn't seen as a god of magic until the Greeks equated him with Thoth, who was a god of magic. So Hermes became magical because of his conflation with Thoth.
life, and the principles of man are mind, reason, soul, spirit, and body. The spirit gives motion to the body, but at death it withdraws into the soul, and the living creature dies. There is one source from which all things depend, and its three names are God, the Father, and the Good. God contains the cosmos, and the cosmos contains man.
Yeah, the Caduceus is the
The only
winner.
way to salvation
6
is through
memberships
God's
to go.
gnosis. The
Wink,
soul
wink.
is beautiful, but it loses touch with the beautiful and the good as the body grows. At death, the soul withdraws into itself, and the mind and spirit separate from the soul. The mind takes on a fiery body and traverses space, while the soul faces judgment. The impious soul is punished through violence and wrongdoing, while the pious soul is guided towards goodness and blessings. Pray for the good mind, for the soul cannot regress. Humans are divine creatures, even greater than gods in power. The dispensation of all things arises by means of cosmos and man, but by the One. Later, Poimandres, the divine mind, or nous, returned to Hermes, who proceeded to ask for clarification on the truth about God and the good. Mind proceeds to explain. God creates Aeon, which is the timeless and spaceless realm of
Bless
ideal
your heart,
being.
Brad. Thank you very much.
Aeon
for
then
the
creates
gift
cosmos,
memberships.
which is the principle of order, and cosmos creates
You're
time,
bringing us the
which
Caduceus,
creates
brother.
becoming. The good is the essence of God. Sameness is the essence of Aeon. Order is the essence of cosmos. Change is the essence of time, and life and death are the essence of becoming. The energies of each entity are mind and soul for God.
Yeah, it's videos like this that just show you how important Litwa's new translation is. It's crazy that no one did it before Dr. Litwa did, because those distinctions are so essential. I mean, Ficino famously, who brought the Corpus Hermeticum into the West, because again, in the Middle Ages we just had the Asclepius, he translated the Corpus Hermeticum but made a key error covered in an academic paper that I did cover in the early days of this channel. You can go listen to it, where it's noticed that Ficino mistranslated the Hermetica, saying that the highest you can go to is through reason. What the Hermetica actually says, that to go to the highest you have to go beyond reason. Quite a massive error, and that's what the Renaissance readers would have had via Ficino. You can see why Ficino didn't really want it translating, but it's been retranslated from Latin, Ficino's, by Dr. Dan Atrell in Canada with his friends and colleagues. So that's out now, the Latin Hermetica, and now we have the Litwa, which has taken it even further to bring us clarity.
Lastingness and deathlessness for Aeon, restoration and the opposite thereof for cosmos, increase and decrease for time, and quality for becoming. God is the source of all. Eon is their essence, and cosmos is their matter. Eon's power is the source of cosmos, and it imparts deathlessness and lastingness to matter. Genesis and time have two natures, unchangeable and indestructible in heaven, and subject to change and destruction on earth. The soul of Eon is God, the soul of cosmos is Eon, and the soul of earth is heaven. All things are through Eon, and the body is full of soul and mind, which is full of God. Life fills the all from within, and encircles cosmos from without, continuing in sameness above in heaven, and changing below on earth. Eon preserves the cosmos through God's energy, which is unlike anything. God is not inactive, as all things are full of God. All things are made by God's power and are subject to him, though he is not independent of them. The cosmos is beautiful and ordered by Eon. The moon is the forerunner of the subject worlds, while the earth is the foundation of the cosmos and nurtures life. Every living body consists of both soul and matter. Living things have souls, but non-living things don't. Only God can put soul into living things, for he is the only one who can create life. God cannot be inactive, because if he were, it would make him imperfect. Understanding the work of begetting requires experiencing it. God works alone, and if separated from it, all things would collapse and die. Since all things are lives, and life is one, then one is God. Death dissolves the union of mind and soul, but does not destroy them. Eon is God's image, cosmos is Eon's, the sun is cosmos's, and man is the sun's. Change is called death when the body dissolves, and life when it withdraws to the unmanifest. The cosmos also changes, but it is not dissolved. God has one idea that is bodiless, and manifests all ideas through bodies. The form of God's idea is like the form of reason, and mountain tops in pictures. God cannot live without doing good, which is the life and motion of God. Hermes tells Tat that mind is of God's essence, and in humans the mind is God. The mind rescues the soul from the passions of the body, acting as a physician. Souls without the mind are irrational and subject to fate. Those led by reason suffer less, and can avoid vice and suffering. Mind is the ruler of all things, and nothing is impossible for it. Passion differs from passibility, which is the ability to feel. Freeing oneself from the body frees oneself from passion. God has given humans mind and speech, which can guide them to the choir of gods and blessed ones after death if used properly. Hermes tells Tat that reason is within the mind, which is within God. The cosmos is the image of the Mighty One filled with life. Everything in it is alive and immortal. Death is impossible because everything has motion and dissolves as compound bodies, rather than being destroyed. God communicates through visions and signs and energizes everything. To worship God, one must avoid being bad, as God permeates everything and is manifested in the orderly behavior of the universe. Tat asks Hermes for clarification on rebirth, which the thrice greatest one promised to teach him once he had become a stranger to the world illusion. Hermes explains that man is born from wisdom, silence, and the true good, and that the soul...
All right, if it seemed like I was distracted for the last 3 minutes, it's because I was doing something really awesome for you. We did it. Thank you, Brad, for getting us there. And look what we now have. Oh, wait, what's going on there? End Q&A, okay. Look what we have. Boom, 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 boom. We got it.
Power is the will of God. The begotten is composed of all powers and is God's son. Tat asks for a more direct explanation, but Hermes says that it can only be experienced through the simple vision brought to birth out of God's mercy. It cannot be seen by the senses, and the one who experiences it is no longer touched, but has touch, dimension, and is born in mind. Hermes instructs Tat to withdraw into himself and to purge his senses and torments of material things, so that he may perceive the birth of divinity within. He lists 12 torments, including not knowing, grief, intemperance, concupiscence, unrighteousness, avarice, error, envy, guile, anger, rashness, and malice. Hermes tells Tat to keep silent, and that they are being purified for the articulation of reason, or logos. Gnosis of God and joy have come to them, and with their coming, not knowing and sorrow are cast out. He invokes the powers of self-control, continence, righteousness, sharing with all, and truth, which chase away the torments of intemperance, desire, unrighteousness, avarice, and error. Hermes explains that the measure of the good is full upon truth's coming, and that all torments of darkness have fled. When the 10 powers overcome the 12 torments, intellectual birth is complete, and we become gods by abandoning the body's senses and realizing ourselves as beings of light and life. This brings us great joy. The human body is made up of 12 types of life, which are one in nature but deluded in perception. The 10 powers naturally overcome the 12, since the 10 gives birth to souls and unites life and light. The 1 contains the 10, and the 10 contains the 1. And thus Tat learns to see all things with the power of his mind and says, I am everywhere, in heaven, earth, water, air, animals, plants, before and after birth. And he learns that rebirth is to see things with the mind, not just the body. The natural body will dissolve and die, but our essential birth as gods cannot. And Tat says, Let every part of the world listen to my hymn. I will praise the Lord who created everything and established the earth, the heavens, and the ocean. All powers within me, let's sing together. Let my praises be acceptable to God, the Sire of all. Tat desired to learn more about the nature of things, and so Hermes explains more to him. He begins, There must be a supreme ancient maker who rules over the making of all things, as everything is made by something else.
King of the
This
unseelie.
maker, who cannot be seen, we shall call God, Maker, and Father. Yet we must understand the difference between the made and the maker, as there is no middle term. All things are either made...
Kind of like Goethe's idea of natura naturata and natura naturans.
...or the maker. We should always remember the maker and the made in all things, without regard for things above, below, divine, or changing.
Nature,
Nevertheless,
nature.
The maker and the made are inseparable, and one cannot exist without the other. The maker is alone, simple, and uncompounded, and all things must be made by the maker. The making God is the leader, and everything else is the follower. Do not reject things based on their variety, for God's glory lies in making all things. The imperfections in them are not a reflection of God's character, and it is the continuity of being made that causes them to lose their shine. God created change to refresh the process. It is ignorant and impious to deny God's role as the creator of all things, as God's only passion is goodness, which is neither arrogant nor impotent. He has the power to create everything, and he is like a farmer planting different seeds and trees. He sows immortality in heaven, change on earth, and life and motion in the universe. God's creation has 4 elements: God himself, Genesis, and the 2 principles of immortality and change. After Tat and Asclepius received Hermes' sermons, Asclepius delivers his own sermon to King Ammon. Asclepius explains, This sermon is the essence of all that has been said in previous sermons, and will challenge many beliefs. The sermon will preserve the power and clarity of the original language, Egyptian, against the superficiality of Greek language. I begin the sermon with an invocation to God.
Which, of course, is ironic since that's being written in Greek. The person writing that is writing it in Greek.
Lord and Maker of the universe, who is both all and one. All and one are not separate, and they must remain one to preserve the fullness of all things. In earth there are fountains of water, fire, and earth, all coming from the same source. The sun, which is the demiurge, orders heaven and earth, pouring out essence and taking up matter. The sun's energies extend to earth and all its depths. The substance that only the mind can grasp is the sun's own substance, which is a reservoir of light. Its origin is unknown, but the sun is near to God in nature. The sun shines in great splendor throughout the cosmos above and below. He holds the cosmic team in line, using life, soul, spirit, deathlessness, and genesis as reins. The sun distributes perpetual permanence to the immortals and nourishes the deathless parts of the cosmos with his light. He vivifies and keeps in movement the animals in the lower parts of the cosmos. God's power to give life is continuous, and daemons work under him to watch over human affairs and carry out punishments for impiety. The duty of the gods is to give benefits, mankind's duty is to give worship, and the daemon's duty is to give requital. Impiety is the only thing held against humans. The choir of daemons is arranged underneath the stars, with their varied natures giving them authority over things on earth, causing confusion and turmoil. They shape our souls and set them in motion, affecting our nerves, marrow, veins, arteries, and brain, down to the heart.
Yeah, the snake comes from the Hebrew Bible, from the staff of Moses, the Nehush Nachash issue. Nehush Nachash. It's a bronze serpent because it's a wordplay. Nehush. The Nehush is Nahash. The snake is brass. It's a wordplay. It happens a lot in Hebrew. Tohu vevohu is kind of seen in a similar way. Like, oh, everything was just completely, gobbledygook. Tohu vevohu. It's a phrase. It's a what's it called? A colloquialism. And then there's other wordplays like the Nehush Nahash. What's the snake staff made of? What's the Nahash? The Nehush made of? It's Nahash. The Nehush is Nahash. Nehush Nahash. Right? The bronze serpent. Similar words. So let's say that's how it is. Yeah.
A few have a direct connection to God, protecting them from the influence of daemons.
Interesting.
Others are controlled by daemons and subject to their whims. The intelligible world comes from God, and the sensible world comes from the intelligible world. The sun pours out the
I'm
stream.
glad you noticed that impiety is the only thing held against human. It's resonant with the idea that the only unforgivable sin is sin against the Holy Spirit. Of course, the Bible also says there's no forgiveness for sin after baptism, so go figure that one out. The things we ignore file under things we ignore in modern Christianity, or interpret away. But impiety is the only thing held against humans. And this is why the emphasis in Hermetica and Hermetic spirituality is on thanksgiving. It's on giving thanks and showing reverence and gratitude for life and light.
Of divine goodness through both worlds.
Hebrew poetry
God is the Father
and
of all,
language
the Son is the Creator of all,
is very
and the
fun
cosmos
once you
is the
understand
tool
it.
used for creation. The intelligible essence controls heaven, the gods control the daemons, and the daemons control humans. All are parts of God, and everything God creates is a part of himself. As God is ceaseless, his making has
We
no
call
beginning
that
or
panentheism
end.
today.
Asclepius explains to the king that there are things that appear bodiless, like reflections in mirrors and forms, and that these reflections occur between the sensible and intelligible worlds. Asclepius advises the king to worship these images, which have their forms from the intelligible world.
And that's a
God
very
is-
cool, that's a very Hermetic thing about, oh, what a great image. It's a very Hermetic thing about the Golden Dawn, the phrase, by names and images are all powers awakened and reawakened. That's another very Hermetic phrase we find in the neophyte initiation of the Golden Dawn. Now, there was a Golden Dawn question earlier I promised to get to that I saved over here. So, well, here's a one. Let's address this on the way. Brian, other than the no soul in non-living things, it's a similar breakdown as you can... Oh, okay, yeah. No, that's true. Y'all, hello. Okay, someone said they wanted help. David Epstein wanted help with getting started in Golden Dawn magic. I mean, there's a lot of places to start. Depends where you're at. But starting with the basic exercises is good, like Meditation 1. You can get my version of Meditation 1 if you go to hermeticmysteryschool.com/free meditation. And you can check it out there. There's a video, there's a high quality download. There's even a binaural beat version with some sound design that me and a student did that's really lovely. And it's on YouTube as well, but just go there and you can download that. That's a great place to start. And by my version of Meditation 1, I just mean, the way I taught it, the way I've come to teach it after teaching it for a long time in classes, because students have issues sometimes with meditations and you come up with ways to work around them that help get them there. And so that's what I've done in that Meditation 1, which is sort of a tripartite meditation, focusing on the point, then the and the presence of God in nature, the Shekhinah, and then some other things. So there's lots of ways to start with Golden Dawn magic. The Cicero Green book isn't the best place to start, but if you're looking to do self-initiation, that's the only way really available to dive into it on your own, that is at all close to the actual tradition. And then there's still things you should be wary of, like the thelemic insertions, like of the Liber Resh, instead of the daily rhythms of the Golden Dawn Stella Matutina tradition. So yeah, start learning the rituals. Start doing meditation 1. Start practicing the lesser ritual of the pentagram. Start there, and then study. And then the next thing I would do if I were you is to hand copy out the Neophyte Initiation and Knowledge Lecture 1 from Frater Yekida's books. Copy out the Neophyte Initiation from his complete book of initiations, different to this book, and then copy out the Knowledge Lecture 1 and memorize it. And then watch everything on my channel for the rest.
Is a natural musician who creates endless harmony and rhythm without tiring. In music, blame the instrument, not the inspiration of the music maker. Similarly, don't blame the body for impiousness, as God is an unwearied spirit who generously bestows
that picture
joyful
rocks.
gifts. Blame the string, not the
I guess
demiurge,
this is made
if there's a
by
lack of
AI
matter to perfect
3
his
years ago.
skillfulness. The worse
But maybe
the
not the
instrument,
script.
the more reputation the music maker gains by striking the proper note. An artist trained
Sorry. The guy behind Agrippa's Diary just interviewed Dr. Pucco a while ago, and I was surprised to see him interview someone because he does his own research and writes his own scripts, he says, and Agrippa's Diary is massive with a very expensive course on the back end. But his information is just so drastically wrong. It's hard to imagine he writes them himself. When I was reviewing it, I was like, it would have been better if he had fed PDFs into AI and created AI scripts, because then at least there'd be correct facts in his videos, whereas the scripts he writes are just so uninformed. It's shocking. I'd love to talk to him how this happens on such a regular basis on his channel. I mean, but I guess if you're that popular, you don't care, and you just keep going, and such is life. Maybe I shouldn't even, I don't know. Whatever. We all do our own things.
in noble themes can use themselves as an instrument and create magnificence through mysteries. We should praise God first, and then kings, in an orderly progression. God is the greatest king, everlasting and victorious. But all kings are praised for their lordship and prowess in war, and even foreign lands tremble before them. Our discourse ends with the better one and the divinest of kings who brings us peace. Receive wisdom from the better one, and direct it back to him for blessings. Though we may not properly praise the pure God, acknowledging his limitless power is the ultimate blessing. It is our duty as children of the King to praise him and ask for pardon for our inadequacy. God is good, deathless, eternal, and continuously sends messages urging us to praise him and return to him. All beings are united in thought and passion through love. Praise kings as a way of training ourselves in pious service and in practicing praise. Kings bring peace and prosperity, and are symbols of peace that restrain enemies and provide safety. Show gratitude to them for their contribution to peace and prosperity. And that brings us to the end of the Corpus Hermeticum. I hope this video portrayed to you the essential message of this earliest Hermetic text, and I implore you to explore the full work for the finer details that this abridgment was unable to capture. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. If you'd like to support the channel in our goal of making complex texts from philosophy, psychology, and esoteric traditions accessible to a wider audience, please consider sharing this video with a friend or buying us a coffee through the link in the description. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again.
And of course, I will put the channel link in the show notes below. But I want, because we unlocked a new emoji. We unlocked the caduceus emoji. Let me see the caduceus emoji in the chat there. Yay! And I'm going to end with a really interesting segment from this book, which by a Christian Bull, that should send you on your way to the Way of Hermes very well today on this beautiful Sunday day of clover clouds after the biggest lightning storm I've seen ever in my life. But here's one last question. Okay, 42 says Egyptian book of Dead, 2 solar homages. It's 1,000 times better than Liber Resh. Results are more interesting. Yeah, okay. Speaking of homages, here's a good little... Come, let me lead you to the way of life, that you may reach the abode of generations without coming to grief. Serving God is the good way. Blessed is he whose heart leads him to it. I speak to you of what happened to me. I let you perceive the plan of God. I let you discern knowledge of his might. I have come here to the city of eternity. Having done the good upon earth, having filled my heart with God's way, from my youth until this day. And that's from the Tombeau de Petasiris. What was I going to say about videos like that? The only dishonest thing in that video really is presenting it as giving access to the text in an easy way. What it actually does is mislead you as to what the texts are really saying, ultimately, because of its imprecision and lack of research and writing. But what it does is what we were studying earlier at the beginning of the stream in looking at how Hermes Trismegistus entered into the modern era. The way it happened and continues to be pushed forward is through popularizations that often are completely fantastical. But yet that is still how those things move forward often. So think of all the things that you've gotten to learn and grow from that you only became aware of because of something perhaps that you might see as less than veritable in the beginning. You know, when I got into Celtic Druidry and Wicca, I thought it was pretty real witchcraft and pretty real Druidry. But that was just the early 90s and Llewellyn having very loose standards at the time that allowed authors to say that stuff and say this is the modern incarnation of historical witchcraft, or this is the Druidry, which has never gone away because it has been kept by and passed on generation after generation and is now being shared by DJ Conway today in the 1990s. But those fantastical approaches to those things led me to where I'm at today. So even videos like this that don't really help you decipher what the text is actually saying or penetrate its mysteries, it does inspire us. It does encourage us, just like books like The Gallery of Magic and all kinds of other things do. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I just finally, for the first time ever, finally got a copy of this book. Some of you know this book. Finally got a copy of this. Now, I've had the German version that it's translated from for a very long time. But I thought, you know, everyone loves this, the English translation, so I got it. And sure enough, as I've already discovered a while back, it's a very curious translation. For example, would you say this, the Abramelin, is a Jewish ritual or a Christian ritual? Because in this translation it says to begin it on Passover. But in the German translation that it's based on, that I have, it says to begin the ritual on Osten. Osten is German for Easter. A Jew wouldn't begin a ritual on Easter, and a Christian wouldn't begin a ritual on Passover. So what is the Abramelin? And why did this English translator change the German word for Easter to Passover? A lot of people are taking credit for that discovery online, but Aaron Leach did confirm to them it was me that noticed it, so yay me. I'm not an Abramelin guy, so I just find it vaguely curious. I'd love to know if you guys consider the Abramelin, or not consider, have you thought of it generally as a Jewish or a Christian ritual up till now, up until I gave you the spiel. So let's end with a little few words of wisdom from the great scholar Christian Bull, a fantastic scholar. And this is from his little introduction to the Way of Hermes. And it's a little paragraph called Testimonies to the Existence of a Way. I hinted at this earlier on. And then we'll do the last questions, so you can get your questions in now. We should first take notice that there is nothing called the Way of Hermes in our sources. This is an abstraction created in scholarly literature, and the closest we come is when Iamblichus states that Hermes has led the way on the path of theurgy, from Iamblichus Mysteries, De Mysteriis. The goal of theurgy is ascent, and indeed we find in the Hermetica mention of a way leading upwards, which the souls must follow in order to reach God, the good, the beautiful, or truth. The diversity of terms used makes it unlikely that the way here is a technical term. Rather, it is a metaphor like the way of life. If life is a journey, then sticking to one specific path implies determination and the promise of a safe arrival at the desired destination. A more technical use of the term seems to be found in the Discourses 8 and 9, which is the point of departure from which Mahe and then Faudin derived their thesis. After Tot has attained his visionary ascent, Hermes instructs him to write a commemorative stela, which should not be available to anyone who has not gone through the preliminary stages of general and detailed teachings, and then undergone rebirth. Quote, but going step by step, he enters the way of immortality, and in this manner he comes into the understanding. And there it says, what's that say in Greek? Yeah. No. Yeah, and it says nous, right? Yeah. Of the eighth, and which reveals the ninth. We cannot be sure if the term "the way of immortality." I'm going to keep studying Greek, and I'll be way better a year from now. It's a fun thing to do. Join Dr. Litwa's Poimandres if you have basic Greek or can rush and get pronunciation level Greek in the next by September 7th. We cannot be sure if the term "the way of immortality" is a technical term here either, as the expression does not recur in other texts, but at least it demonstrates that there is a set course with several steps, which one must follow in order to reach the Hermetic goal of salvation. Such steps are also mentioned elsewhere in the treatise, where we find a requirement for the initiand, it's a typo, for the initiand, maybe it isn't a typo, initiand, to recall each of the steps of instruction, so that spiritual advancement comes step by step and brings about understanding. Gnosis. It's like gnosis? Yeah, gnosis. Let me look at the footnote. Well, that's why I'm doing the Poimandres course, to improve my Greek. The sequence is important. First, one must enter the way of immortality and follow it step by step, and only then may one eventually attain the ascent. To enter onto the path, the way, is thus a conscious decision which sets one apart from other people. Likewise, the Poimandres distinguishes between those who wander astray on the way of death and those who accept the narrator as a guide. What's that Greek word? Kathodagos. And thus, by way of implicit antonym to the way of death, they follow the way of immortality. The latter is imagined as a community of people whom Hermes teaches how to be saved, into whom he sows seeds of wisdom, and whom he nourishes with ambrosial water. At the evening they sing prayers of thanksgiving together. The journey metaphor continues in the concluding prayer of thanksgiving, in which the narrator prays to God not to stray from the knowledge of our essence, and testifies, I go towards life and light, as in the discourse on the 8th and 9th, from the Nag Hammadi, where Tot is said to have spiritual brothers. We are thus led to envision a community of people who see themselves as fellow travelers on the way of immortality, a way conceived of as a mixture of instruction and religious ritual. Wonderful. The next section's on the way of Thoth. Great book. We can talk about it more in the future. So let me hit the questions for one last time. Get your last questions in, and if you want to do more of this with me, we have our reading group, which you can sign up to through YouTube membership tier. Go to the book club tier, and I'll have an option to sign up through my website, Hermetic Mystery School, very soon, either hopefully by tomorrow night, for those who don't want to join the book club via the YouTube tier. But of course, with the YouTube tier, you get access to the bonus videos as well. But anyway. Walk the way of Hermes and unveil the life and light of the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermetic spirituality. Join our monthly book club to learn and meet others who seek the ancient wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus. Join via YouTube membership's book club tier and subscribe at hermeticspirituality.com. All right, let's see what final wrap-up questions there are for us. We unlocked a new emoji. It's going to be a while before we get another emoji because let's not even ask how many members we need to get unlock another one. We've got a lot to play with, and I would love to add the Asclepius emoji or the bronze staff of Moses, or maybe just a picture of Charlton Heston's face for shits and giggles. 42 says the spark of life is the soul, and in some systems and the spirit in others. Yeah, I mean it's a nomenclature issue, really. Thank you, Esoteric Angela. Much appreciated. Good to have you here. Noel, who says, I've heard a lot of people mention that Emerald Tablet book, and they think it's what the Emerald Tablet actually is. They think Brian Cotnoir's Emerald Tablet book is the Emerald Tablet. No, that's not possible. The Emerald Tablet is very different. The Emerald Tablet's true name is
Smaragdine tablet, or the Tabula Smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up.
I'm sorry, I just love that one so much. I want to get a meme of Duncan Trussell ranting about the Golden Dawn, or Kurt Metzger ranting about the Golden Dawn to play. I want to get all of those. I want all the pop culture references to the Golden Dawn. Let me know if you want to join my Discord and help me track them down, clip them, and put them together. It would just be so much fun to have a huge reel that's just like 10, 20, 50, minutes of pop culture people publicly referring to the Golden Dawn, because that's something I never thought I would see. I mean, we thought the tradition was going to be dead soon in the 90s, but doing well. It's doing well. That's why I don't like to get caught up in the people bickering like, oh, the true tradition, blah blah blah. Like I like to study the historical tradition and keep that in its own as a field of study to grow and improve. But that's not the same question. What was the historical tradition, or the history of interpretation of the tradition? That's the different question than what's it for us today. Yeah, great show. Thank you. Tons of thunder and lightning here in Florida today. All right. Yeah. Maui logic. Intellectual bridge crossing. Yes, right. I hear you. Good. I agree. Gentlemen, are you still having issues with the GD guy? What GD guy? I don't know. Of a GD guy. Oh, that you mean? You'd have to. I don't know. Glad you're finding the show interesting. Welcome. Brian says everyone calling themselves a druid is like saying every Catholic is the church father. Maybe we should do a little reflecting on where does the priest and practicing believer begin. I mean, maybe. I think if people want to be druids, then they should be druids. Yeah. My earbuds are going to die soon, so we got to wrap this up real fast. Chanael mi barla agam. Oh, that's like, yeah, you don't speak barla agam. My friend in Ireland got stopped by a cop once, and the cop was like, you can't camp here. And he's like, gomaleshkil nil barla agam, which is in Irish means, sorry, I don't speak English, which is hilarious because there's no one who speaks Irish Gaelic who also doesn't speak English. The cop was nonplussed, however, the guardie, and therefore ticketed him anyway, and wouldn't let him camp on the side of the road on his pilgrimage. Maui logic says, it's one out and hiking, talking, feeling, sensing around all of that possible, more or less. Either way, something is bound to happen or not, even in the last one. Yeah, makes sense. I agree. 50-50, what the fucking hell, yeah, okay. More Maui logic. I don't know what that is. Okay, there's some weird stuff going on. I need moderators in this chat. Who wants to be a moderator? Happy to be here. Okay, good. You're not. I don't know. This is not a red pill place. I mean, Matrix, we can use that in the context, but like, all that manosphere nonsense. I mean, 74 guy, GD person, pink swaying hair. I do not know what 74 guy, GD person. I don't know. Oh, that's an emoji you put. RC has banished Griffin from his mind. So, oh, you're talking about Griffin? Yeah, it's just like, I mean, that happened so long ago. I mean, I'm going to mention it here and there. But, yeah, he hasn't, bothered us since bothered me. Well, that's not entirely true, but there's some things I just like. Yeah, the person who stole my massive 5,000 book library is a member of Griffin's Order and did it for that reason, because they were coming after me. So that happened in 2019. And so, yeah, so like Griffin, there's members of Griffin's Order who have committed massive crimes against me, including David Griffin, who broke into my house and assaulted us. So, yeah, Hru, not the same thing. Drew and Hru are not the same thing. Hru is the angel of the Golden Dawn. You didn't hear that from me, though. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, Griffin's going to be dead soon. The adepts of his order that I know are great guys and are probably going to take it in an increasingly gooder direction. They're all the members of his order I've ever met are fine, other than the one who, wasn't. But again, that's okay. There's bad apples in every group. In any group you're in, you always got to learn, who you got to be careful who you spend your time with, and you got to spend time with, the winners, the good people, and the other people just shed them, kick the dust off your feet. Don't entertain them at all. Just nothing. Give them nothing. Wasteland. Most people claim to be a druid usually mean the practice of druidry. Yeah, anyone can be a druid. All you have to do to be a druid is say you're a druid, and you're a druid. It's that simple. Yeah. We don't need, again, gee. I love the numerology. Awesome. Well, this has been a blast. What a fun Sunday stream. It's 5:30 now, so I'm going to give my buddy a call and maybe go have some boys' time. I know he wants to go do craps, because in the past he needed a suit once, but he didn't have the money, and we were living together. We had our secret temple in a third room behind our bookshelf, and so we took what money we had. It was very little in our pockets because we were young, and we took like $150. He needed a suit for work, so it was like $75. So we took it down to the casino and did craps, and we waited until the dice came around to my turn, like placing. And once I got the dice, by the time I was done with the dice, we had turned that $75 into $800. Cashed out 20 minutes later with the cashier, who looked at us in shock, got into the Porsche, drove and bought him a suit. Yeah, this was back before the recession, when I was driving my buddy's Porsche because he got signed to Universal Records in Ukraine and said, "Here, keep this as long as you want." He gave me the keys. And so he wants to go do craps and see if my psychism is still pretty good. It is when I'm rolling the dice. It's not fair. It is cheating. And I don't recommend doing this. I'm not proposing gambling. Just go, have a little fun, get out, and have an outline. Whereas if you get $200 or $300, then you leave, you quit. You got to know when to fold them. Yeah. Anyway, we might go do that tonight. So that would be a nice change of pace. I haven't done anything silly and fun like that in freaking forever, and he's come into something, so we'll see. And then who knows where the night will take us. I was supposed to go to a goth club last night for the first time in a billion years, but I was just too tired. Yeah. So yeah, I don't use magic for gambling, really. Well, I don't gamble, but I do once in a while like to throw dice and see if my intuition can correctly predict or control it a little bit. I mean, that's what most people playing craps are doing, though. That's what they're all doing. They're all holding the dice, and they're all concentrating. If you watch them do it, they're all doing that. The serious guys about it. Whereas I don't really have a lot of interest in that. Plus, to do it and win, if I drink, it goes away and I lose. So yeah. Anyway, I should probably delete this from the episode at the end of it, so that you're lucky to hear all this live. But yeah, I really don't recommend this stuff, because I've just known way too many people with gambling problems. I've known more people destroyed by gambling than by drugs. Far more friends have been destroyed by gambling than by drugs. So I really don't think it's something you should get into. But once in a while, just for a little fun, it's not that bad. But yeah, results may vary. Yes, I know a lot about probability manipulation. I'm not going to talk about that stuff here because of the context in which we're talking about it. If you want to develop yourself psychically, go for it. But again, don't use that. Don't bank on that. Don't ever bank on that, If you want to bank on something, buy the stocks that Nancy Pelosi's buying, and that's about it, I think. Do what the corrupt people are doing, and you'll get more success. Yeah, oh yeah, we have Kalshi in Canada, which is illegal in the States. Like, you can't do Kalshi. Like, gambling is so huge. That's what scares me about it here, and that's why I don't even want to talk about it, because it's fine just between us. It's just me and my 28 friends here right now online. It's okay to talk about it a bit. I don't really have a limit as to what I'm willing to talk about, but I really think that it's really sad how much people have sort of gotten into that, I think. There's just better things to spend your time doing. If you do it like a dozen times in your life, though, not the end of the world. Certainly not the end of the world. Yeah, better to play with friends, actually, is what I would say. Better to play with friends. But again, it's hard to do craps with friends, and that's just the only thing I really like, because it's just fun. I like it because it's a communal thing. Everyone, like, I went to the Bellagio once when I was on a work trip for the game company I worked for with the same guy, actually. Actually, no, he wasn't there. Yeah, my sister was there instead. So I went to Bellagio, and I got the dice finally. It was my turn, and I started rolling, and I didn't have much money. Even though I had a corporate job finally, I didn't have much money. And what I did have, I just spent on instruments. Just kept buying instruments, banjolins, banjos, everything you could think of, and playing all of them. So, but I got the dice, and I got on, like I do almost every time, instant streak. But I was only betting the minimum, which was like $10, right? The guys next to me were betting these gold chips, and by the time my streak busted out, as it does, inevitably, I had made like, $60 or $100 or something small. But the guys next to me made like $30,000. They were so pleased with me. They're like Middle Eastern guys. They were patting me on the back, so like, "Oh, we'd buy you a drink, but it's all free." I'm like, "Really?" Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, it's all free." I was like, "No, it's not," and I didn't know that. Then he calls the woman over, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have a I ordered some basic well drink," and then he's like, "I'll have a triple Grey Goose on ice." I was like, "What? That's free?" It's like crazy. In Canada, that stuff cost a fortune. And then I had the triple Grey Goose, got the dice again, and lost like $200 because I was inebriated. So something about the intoxication really affects those senses, in my opinion. I'm probably going to cut this all off from the stream, so that's why I'm going into a bit more detail right now. Because again, I don't think we should encourage this sort of thing. And but again, playful experimentation is fine. Just be responsible, be adults. You know the thing, man. Do the thing. And yeah, is not advice. Let's wrap up. It's been fun. I'm sure there's some comments there, but we are done. This has been a blast. This has been a blast. Doing magic for health? Yes, do magic for health. Yeah. I do magic for everything. I think people should do magic for everything, But don't take my word for it that any of this comes to anything, for the sake of regulations and requirements and rules on YouTube. We're just having fun. All right. Slangafol, EOI. You know what I think?
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
All right, and one last meme.
I love magic.
We all love magic. It's been a blast. One last time, throw that caduceus wand in the chat. Show off become a channel member, share the show, like and subscribe, all that stuff. But mainly join the book club, because it's going to be amazing. We're going to have a lot of fun. Go join the YouTube tier for the book club. The first meeting, the first real big meeting for the first chapter of Wouter Hanegraaff's Hermetic Spirituality book to be discussed is the third Sunday of September. And so we will see you there. And yeah, I'm doing a stream on the tarot tomorrow. So that should be fun. On arcanology and why the Golden Dawn uses just the major arcana in the Outer Order. We'll talk about that. It's a request from you guys. So yeah, wunderbar. And go get your tickets for ENOCHIACON. 3 equal payments available now. Get them like they're hot. See everyone. Light and extension.